check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. I'm Max Ceron with you guys as always, and today we have a very special guest and a different type of episode for everyone listening today. We got Michael Stewart from the CWB Group. He's here to talk to us a little bit about himself and the organization, and get a little insider info, some secret information from one of the big guys at the CWB. So, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Max. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. You know, it's right. We're right in the dead center of the Christmas break here. We decided to do this to have something cool for the new year for 2021. Get off on the right foot here. How's your holidays been?
They've been pretty good so far. It's been nice to have just some quiet time at home with the family, not have to worry about going and seeing wife's parents, my family, everything else. It's been nice to just settle down, hunker in, and be thankful for what we all have right now.
Awesome. So let's let people know who you are. So you're Michael Stewart. What's your job at the CWB? What's your role?
I'm the Vice President of Corporate Services and the Chief Financial Officer for the CWB. I've got the luxury of working with some really great people here at the Bureau. We've got our finance team, our IT group, our marketing team, as well as our team that's been working very closely with setting up some new government-sponsored programs that we do here in the province of Ontario. And up until recently, our HR group as well. But understanding the challenges we're all under as a complete society these days with new working from home cultures and those types of things, we've taken the opportunity to move a little bit upscale in the HR talents we have. So we've brought in a new VP of HR to take on those responsibilities for me.
Okay, so you are pretty high up the chain now, right, at the CWB, realistically. How long have you been there?
Well, it's been a while. Let's see. I've been with the Bureau off and on I've been with the group a couple of occasions now. So I was with the group the first time from 2007 through to 2015. Decided to leave the organization, try something new, get back into manufacturing a little bit, and try my hand at that. And I was lucky enough that the opening came up in 2017 to join back with the organization. So I made the trek back to the group in 2017 and have been here ever since.
When you left in 2015, what was your role that you had at the CWB prior to leaving?
When I was with the CWB prior to leaving, I was the VP of Corporate Services, but we did not have the CFO title back at that point in time. So still many of the same responsibilities, with the exception of getting to work with our association group, as well as the marketing teams. Those didn't fall within the corporate services team at that point.
Okay, so you said you went back into industry and you wanted to try your hand in manufacturing. So what did you go do? What was it that you went to go sow seeds in?
Yeah, so I left and went to a cookie manufacturer. And the manufacturer was head officed here in Ontario, but had operations in the US. I wanted to try my hand again at manufacturing, but also that cross-border experience of getting into the US, different accounting rules, different culture, which was quite exciting. I think the most unique part of the business when we got into the cookie manufacturing was we would make perfectly good cookies, and then the last step of the process was we threw them through a crusher. Everything was crushed. That was all of our products for the most part. We did some specialty that weren't, but a lot of it was crushed, and then we'd send it off to Hershey and some of the bigger food manufacturers that would use those cookies in their end product.
Okay, so you were like a cookie additive to cookies.
Yeah, pretty much. When I went there, I wanted to get a little bit closer to the action, so I had joined the organization as a controller, so I could get right in there, back into budgeting, back into cost accounting, those types of things.
So it sounds like most of your career has been on the number side. Now, I'm going to back up now. You said you were with the CWB for a while. Now, What was your career leading into the CWB? Like, have you always been involved with finance or accounting? Was that something you did right out of school, or?
Yeah, I have been in finance, I would say, most of my career. When I first left school, I spent some time just trying to figure things out. So I worked in automotive manufacturing. I was in a factory for a while. I also did some service related businesses where I was out there, basically it was the party rental business. So we'd be putting up the big party tents and those types of things. So, but that was probably for the first 2 years out of school. And then from there, I've been back in finance ever since.
And what type of companies did you generally work for as a
Yeah.
finance person?
For myself, I've almost always worked in the small to medium enterprise.
Hmm.
And it was a bit of a career choice for me. I had gone small and medium enterprise because you get a much wider range of access and you get to try a lot of new different things that you never really get with the big organizations. I did spend a year and a half in a big organization, was kind of pigeonholed into a very, very small role in a very big machine. And had made the decision at the end of that, I wasn't going to go back into that type of a role. I liked smaller business, wide access, a lot of opportunity to try new things. Like with the Bureau, got to be involved in construction development of our head offices, and also got to have the opportunity of working with their association, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. It's something that gets lost often in the steel trades, as my field specifically, is the range between small and large. And there tends to be a lot of bias on both ends. There's a lot of people that work in the large manufacturing sector, large company sector, and look at small to medium companies as, not having the ability to take on large enough jobs or to create enough work or to manage properly. And then on the other end, you get the small to medium companies that look at the large companies as not being nimble enough to change or to be able to incorporate new systems or ideas, or like you said, let the people on the floor, mid level management or floor people, have a say in what's happening in the company. That gets a little bit lost on the big. I've worked both ends of that. I think in the majority of my career, I've been in bigger companies. I've worked for pretty much like two or three of the largest companies in Canada as far as manufacturing. But there is a soft spot in my heart for the startups because I've worked for two startup companies that ended up getting big, but I was there at the start, and that's a beautiful thing to watch something grow, right?
Yeah, it's exciting. You get to see, you kind of get to see the fruits of your labor at play. So it's almost like you have ownership, even though if you're not part of the management team or part of the ownership structure, you get to have ownership in that organization because you were part of the group that brought it from essentially a concept or a thought right through to a powerhouse in its industry. But speaking of that, speaking of kind of your travel, your journey, where you were, and the fact that you were working with these small organizations and grown into large ones, and working for the biggest manufacturers out there, I hear you've made a bit of a career transition. Any chance you want to chat about any of that?
So this is the segue. This is the segue you were looking for.
I thought I would sneak it in as quick as I could.
Yeah, yeah. So for the people that aren't involved directly with the CWB, the notices have gone out and it's out on some social media. But yeah, I have a new role as the director of the Canadian Welding Bureau Association, starting January the 4th, 2021, and that is a new, completely different branch of what I've done before in my past. But I don't know if it's necessarily new skills. I don't know if it's a new as in I don't know what's happening. I think it's new as in this is a new type of organization. The CWB is a much different type of company than, producing widgets and products, which I've been doing most of my life.
Yeah, it is a different type of company than you've been in. I would agree with you though. It's going to rely a lot on the skills that you already have. That was one of the things I was lucky enough to interview you as we went through the process, and that was one of the things that really drew myself as well as the other people that were involved in it was your knowledge of the industry, because that's really what we want to have in the association is somebody who understands the industry, both past, present, but also where it's going in the future. And if you didn't have those skills, we wouldn't have been able to bring you into the organization, even though you're as dynamic as you are and everyone loves working with you. It's really that skill set that sets you apart from everyone else that we work with.
Now, for the people listening, especially if they're overseas or they're outside of the CWB organization, the association is a very unique thing that Canada has. A lot of things have to happen in order for the association to exist. First of all, you have to have a standardized system of certification and welding procedures, which is under the CSA, which is a harmonized system across Canada. Welding falls under that. The CWB is the link between industry and the CSA approval system, right? Now that process brings money in because people, it's a for profit part of the company, right?
Well, the certification group is actually a nonprofit
Okay.
organization. So that one we really do try to operate on a cost recovery model.
Hmm.
And we over the years have tried to become more and more efficient as we work with clients. And if there are any excess, funds at the end of the day, what we do is we try to reinvest them into organizations like our association, being able to get the message back out there to industry, be able to help chapters, kind of work on that grassroots level. We also have a foundation, as you would know about. And if we do have any excess funds left over towards the end of the year, we do invest those into our foundation as well, so that they can work very closely with the secondary, post-secondary, elementary school levels across the country in order to try to improve the welding education for all Canadians.
And that's something that's really important. I think that gets lost in the mix sometimes, is that this community that exists in the welding world. Um, there's always a talk, and it's come up in so many of my podcasts that there was such a tight sense of community that seems to have disappeared. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the community has just shifted media and shifted formats, and the foundation is everywhere right now. I worked in the colleges for the last 7 years, and I saw it through the high schools. I saw it through and now that with Acorn and the learning systems that CWB's developed, it's really giving back into the start of people's welding careers, which is really important,
Yeah,
right?
yep. We've looked at it really internally. We use the term the circle of life. So basically, what we have is a dial that we look at, and really we go from certification through our other entities that we have, which cover ISO registration, education, those types of things, and it all comes back to the foundation at the end of the day. Because really, what we feel is that if we're unable to invest in the future of welding, there won't be a remaining industry for the rest of us to play in. So that's why we really do feel it's important to be reinvesting back into our youth, to be reinvesting back into the industry as much as possible.
And I've seen it in other countries what a lack of standardization does. Even to the south of us in the US, there isn't a real good standardized model across the country, which causes problems for them in terms of movement, travel, working overseas. And the CSA as a standardized model with the CWB, working towards that is something that is very translatable. It's something that you are able to move, something it's mobile, it's something that's also useful career-wise. Now, one of the things I hear often coming up as a welder is, why do we need the CWB? Why do we have to have these certifications? Why do these things have to happen? What do you think about that from your end?
Yeah, it's one of the items that we've always tried to push a little bit more. And I mean, we've invested a lot of time and effort in how to get the message properly out to industry, because really the purpose of the CWB and the CSA standards is, number one, health and safety. I mean, we are really passionate about the fact that standardization of the model across the country and across the globe, in all honesty,
Hmm.
creates safer structures for all individuals that wind up using them, but also creates a better workplace for the individuals involved in there. Cuts down on confusion. You have the welding procedures you can go to. You have a standardized process that you can follow through. You've got welding supervisors that have been trained and educated on how to be a proper welding supervisor. So we really do feel that number one paramount is health and safety. That is the most important part of it for, of the standardization process. The other item that we look at as well is it levels the playing field. So now you have a standard set of procedures, processes, standards that everyone has to live up to. And it doesn't matter if you're in Canada or you're in another country somewhere else in the world producing products for Canada, you still have to meet the exact same standards. You can't send subpar product from anywhere in the world. into Canada if you haven't followed those procedures and met the requirements of the standard.
Yeah, and leveling the playing field is also very important in Canada in
Mhm.
that small to medium to large organization basis. You can have a multi-billion-dollar company building, say, staircases that require a structural code, and they'll have the
Mhm.
ability to build hundreds of thousands of them, and that's awesome. But then you'll also be able to have, Jimmy in his garage, who's a CWB approved welder, and he can make that same staircase and sell it and make a living himself. And there's not going to be any questions about, is it as good as the other companies? The answer is yes, it is, because they have to follow the same standards.
Exactly. They still get audited 2 times a year. Their welders still have to be qualified. They still have to have welding procedures or follow the pre-qualified procedures. They still have all of the exact same items that they have to do regardless of size of organization or access to resources.
Now, for a lot of young welders coming up, they might not understand the CWB testing process, and there's companies that are not CWB certified. Not
Mhm.
everything needs to be CWB certified.
Exactly.
There is room for not certification and certification. When do you feel, or what industry do you feel relies the heaviest on CWB certification?
Yeah, I mean, really, if you look at our core, it's the structural steel industry. That is our core. That's what we were started for back in 1947 was structural steel, and it's since expanded into structural aluminum and other structures as well. So that's really the core of who we service these days are those structural steel fabricators across the country.
And that's I know the answers to some of these questions that I'm asking, but I worked in fabrication for a long time and didn't really need CWB tickets
Mhm.
because I was doing like surface build up for machining. I worked in a cylinder shop or hydraulic shop for a while when I was
Okay.
younger,
Okay.
and then I got out and I wanted to do some field work, and then eventually started my own company. And that's when I realized, like, man, I got to start racking up some tickets. Especially, I got into some specialized stuff. My game was always stainless. I loved stainless steel, and I really had to start getting these stainless CWB certifications, and they're not easy. Like, I mean, you have to be a pretty good welder. Talking to the guys in the States at weld.com, they did some test plates for CWB, and they were like, this isn't an easy test, this is pretty
Mhm.
hard. And that's good. It makes people up their games, right?
Exactly. And the fact that we have, unlike other areas, you have to requalify every 2 years. You go back through the testing. We make sure that the weld, your ability to weld the test continues to be at the same level as it was previously. So that's one of the other benefits of the standard. And, one of the key focuses of health and safety is the fact that the tests are not easy. You have to redo them every 2 years for each ticket that you wind up holding. And in our mind, it creates a better welder. So when you're a qualified CWB welder, you are a better welder in our mind.
And now that I'm working with the association, I have always felt, in the association, and my back history is that my dad was a welder for his whole life. So I've been going to association meetings since I was like 6, and I've seen the progression of the weld industry my entire life. So 40 years now. I feel that the association really, the role there is to connect all the pieces of industry on one common ground, kind of like a communication point where you can lift out of. Now, for all the people that are, asking about, what does CWB do, or how does it work, or what are the rules, I would 100% tell them, like, this is what the chapters should be doing. This is what we are around. This is why we volunteer, because we want to communicate. We want to get the information from, headquarters, the big home base, out to the ground. And the foundation is great with communicating with the colleges and the schools, but who's talking to the person on the street? And I feel like that's where the association really needs to get involved, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would completely agree with you on that one, Max, is that is one of the areas that the association needs to be involved, but it also has to be more, the association does serve welders that are not just CWB welders.
Hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily just need to be the message coming back from CWB to the association chapters. It really does need to be relevant information about welding and joining in general that's getting back. So if we've identified opportunities for an area that CWB certification doesn't cover, whether it be pressure vessels or something else, it's an opportunity to get that type of information back out to the masses as well, because they do cover, the industry is very diverse, as we've already chatted about. And, a lot of people don't need to have certification, but they can still get value from the association.
On that note, let's take a quick break. We got to go to our commercials here. Say thanks to our sponsors, and we'll be back here on the CWB Association podcast with Mike Stewart in 30 seconds or so.
The CWB Group is Canada's national welding certification organization. We're pleased to offer welder testing at our state-of-the-art facility in Nisku. We provide welders the opportunity to practice for and take a CSA W47.1 welder qualification test. Book your welder qualification test with Canada's welding experts. Give us a call today at 1-800-844-6790 or visit us online at cwbgroup.org to book your training or testing slot. The CWB Group. We are welding.
The CWB Association membership is new, improved, and focused on you. The CWB Association is offering a free membership with a full suite of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Become a member today. Register at cwbassociation.org.
And we're back on the CWB Association podcast. Today's special guest is Mike Stewart, the CFO and VP of a lot of things at the CWB Group. And now my boss, I think, technically. I think I might have a few bosses, but I think you're my most direct boss.
Oh, I don't know about that one. We'll see. I mean, the one thing that's really great, again, about a small organization is that titles don't matter that much. That's one of the things, especially here. I really, it's one of the things that drew me back again, was that titles are titles, and they're because the person got to the area that they are. They're an expert in the area that they service. But at the end of the day, we are all, we're all working to a common good. And so whether it be VP of whatever or director of something else, it really doesn't matter, because we want all voices across the company to be heard.
Awesome. So
you get to be your own boss.
Well, that's a good thing, I think. I have been my own boss, I think probably my whole life. I think, there's certain people that you work with, you don't work for. That's, I've always felt that's a good way to be in a business environment. It didn't matter whether I owned the company or I was helping a company grow. I liked being in an environment where the people around me were a part of a team, and it didn't matter if they were high up or down low. You could communicate what you needed to communicate at any time, right?
Exactly.
So
that was...
Go ahead.
Oh, No, go ahead, Max.
Well, I really had nothing to say. Go
ahead. Well, just what you had said there, that's exactly, at the end of the day, when I'd made my decision to come back here, that was exactly what drew me here. It was Christmas Day 4 years ago, and I was sitting there texting all of my old colleagues here at the CWB saying Merry Christmas to them. I wasn't texting, my current colleagues or anything else at any other organization I was with. It was the folks that I'd been back here with, because you work in a place that's treats people fairly, allows everyone to have a voice, try new things. And at the end of the day, you form relationships there. And, you make it a great place to go into work every day, so it doesn't feel like that you're working.
That's going to be an interesting thing now going forward. And it's something that I've been thinking about lots now coming into this job. With the change in the dynamics of the workplace, which, you started at the beginning of the show talking about that. What do you think we need to do at CWB? Now I say we, like as in everyone that works there, to try to build these relationships, and foster this idea that we are a team. Because there's not an office where you're going in and shaking hands or eating cookies or going out for lunch with your coworkers. I'm working remotely now from my office. I may only see my coworkers once or twice a year. What can we do to foster those feelings of friendships and of I guess congeniality, where you feel comfortable with your workmates? What do you feel about that?
The one item we've really been trying to do is, it's ongoing communication and having reasons to communicate that really aren't formal in some cases. So it could be a virtual coffee break every day, 15 minutes. Anyone who wants to show up can show up. It can be, we've had some virtual lunches where, everyone brings their own lunch, but you just get on Zoom at lunchtime and we'll sit down and have lunch with each other, just to have that, informal chit chat, that opportunity to converse and keep those relationships alive. When we have the formal discussions, it's, we try to make sure that whenever possible, camera's on. So we
Hmm.
get to see each other, because again, you get lost whenever you have 5 or 6 empty little boxes on a Zoom call or a Teams call or whatever platform you're using. If you can see the face, you can see the video, it's not the same as sitting across the table from somebody or sitting beside someone somewhere, but it helps. It's a lot better than staring blankly at an empty box on the screen.
That's something that I've
And I
been.
think the last one is,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, sorry, I was going to say, I think the last one is that you really got to go out of your way to communicate.
Hmm.
You really got to, you got to try. You have to care about who you're communicating with, and you gotta make the effort. That's really the main thing at the end.
Yeah, I was watching some YouTube videos on this. There's a lot of information I've been trying to take in over, well, for the last year now with Zoom, and it's coming out of the college, learning how to teach 30 students over Zoom and make it relatable and still worth their money at the end of the day, right? And one of the things that came up was having the cameras on, and maybe not using the backdrops, maybe taking a little time and setting up the things around you, because that creates a little bit of personality, right? It's like the clothes you wear or
Mhm.
the things you do when you're in public, when you meet people in person. It affects the perception of yourself, right? And also your environment, or even the backdrops you pick might matter a little bit. So it's interesting to see those dynamics play out. I'm very social. I'm a very outgoing person. I think that a lot of people who know me know that, and I've struggled this year at home trying to figure it out. Thank God for video games, because I love my video games, and that gets me through a lot of quiet times. But going forward, I know that our local chapter in Regina, Hamilton's had a few. The chapters are starting to get out there, and now with me coming in January, it's going to be my big push. Let's get live, let's get online, let's get information flowing, get those channels moving. My dad, he just said like a few weeks ago, we can complain about what we don't have all day. Let's just work with what we got, right? And that's just it.
Mhm.
That's all you can do, right?
Yeah, and I think going online as well it's an opportunity. I mean, some organizations, some chapters may actually look at it as though it's a challenge, but it is a huge opportunity, because now you've got access to a lot more information, a lot more resources. You can have experts from, Nova Scotia doing conferences for people over in BC, so they can attend the chapter events, do a discussion that they wouldn't have been able to do previously. So I think there's a huge opportunity in this for us to really, take up to the next level what we're able to do at the chapter level.
It's
And
100%
you talked
true.
about
Yeah.
your goal is you talked about your goal is getting live with all the chapters. Now that we're working together on this, what are some of your other big ideas? What are some of the other thoughts that you want to move forward with quickly?
Okay, well, one of the things that I've always wondered, as I've worked in the association before as just a member and then as a chair, was I'd go to the NACs every year, and the educators conference, and these things, and they're wonderful sources of information. You sit down with these awesome group of people from across Canada, and everyone's got these awesome ideas, and then you leave the meeting, and it's kind of the ideas all just kind of get left behind, and everything kind of gets left in some repository that you don't know how to access. And I think, and I've talked to from Matt, who edits these shows and is a genius at marketing. Something I've talked to him lots now is I'd love to approach this kind of from the point of view as a small business looking to franchise. And I look at the franchise model. I've done a lot of reading and literature on franchise models in my life, because owning a business and then deciding to branch out and stuff like that. It's something I have to wrap my head around. And when you look at the franchise model, it's about creating a proper system of support going in both directions. So I give you what you need before you need it, and I'm going to expect something back before you even are done. And that just creates this path where you're not pushing, you're pulling, right? And it's something in manufacturing we talk about all the time. You want to pull product, never push product. That's a huge change in the way of thinking. That goes back to lean, 5S, Kaizen, all this training that I've had for 30 years now. is coming now to this head, where I want to see if I can do it. Well, I'm gonna do this because I'm a
Mhm.
stubborn guy, and what, and I want to look at all the chapters across Canada as having a two-way road, where in the next few weeks here, right off the top, I'm going to be sitting down with my group, and we're going to set up a package, basically ready to go. There's a little bit of marketing, the logos, the letterheads, the communications, the phones of list people to do. And I'm not going to just email it out, because that's something that's okay, delete, whatever. We're going to put it on our system, on our servers, and then it's going to just be something you can access and anyone can access. You just click on it. And if you want to make money in your chapter, and I've sat on hundreds of these meetings in my life, what are we going to do this year? How are we going to make money? Just click the link. Click the link. There's going to be one right there. Just pick any of
Mhm.
them. There's 10 options. Pick an option. It's already made. The PDFs are made. It's in Publisher. The format's ready. Get your local printer to do it. Go out there, bang on some doors, get some guys to fill in the blanks for either a calendar or for whatever you want to do for marketing. You do a little bit of the legwork, which is the volunteer side. We'll support you with the content. And even if you don't have access to printing, you know what? We could figure that out. Might not be as cheap, but
Mhm.
hopefully you'll find the local businesses to support you, which I always found is available. And it's something actually you and I talked about a few weeks ago, is really looking to your local small to medium businesses. Everyone wants that big unicorn. Well, guess what? There's 6,000 people knocking on that big unicorn's door. I don't know if we're a big enough fish to get noticed at the local level. So go to your local welding shop. Just the guy down the street with a welding rig. Say, hey, you know what? $100 and I'll put you on a calendar day, and on that day you give out a pair of gloves. And people will look forward to that day, because it's the day that you give out a pair of gloves. It costs you $14 and $100 for the box, but this is the networking that needs to happen. You know what I mean? And then that creates interest
Mhm.
in the company. Then the company gets interested in the association, and then you get people coming to the online meets, and that's the support that needs to happen. And it needs to be easy. It doesn't need to be complicated. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things I'm going to try to get my head around. Matt told me I'm crazy. He said it's way too big of a job, but yeah, I think it's a nice dream. It's a goal, right? What do you think? I just ranted on you there.
And I honestly I honestly think there's huge opportunity there. I mean, again, when you talk about kind of the community or the network within the industry, that's the type of stuff that we're going to have to wind up doing. Again, as you said, there are a few unicorns and everyone out there is banging on their doors. And it's hard to wind up being, seen. So let's go to the areas where people aren't. Let's try to get that support and really those are the groups that'll wind up coming in. They're going to continue to support the chapters. They will even hopefully become chapter members if they're not already chapter members, because they're seeing value in what we're doing. So I do think that there's a huge opportunity in that area as well.
And another thing that I had extensive discussions with already, people at CWB, and is the question that always comes up is, what's the value, right? It comes up all the time, like, why would I join? What's the value? And it's something that's been hard to pin your finger on. There's the discounts and the things, but those are even hard to sometimes access, and they're kind of confusing. We want to clean that up a little bit. But one of the biggest things I think that I want to see people understand is that the welding world, or the steel trades world in general, is tiered like any company. There's thousands and thousands of branches and tiers to fall in. And if you're a young person coming up, or I shouldn't say young, but new to this trade, if you're new to the trade, whatever age you are, you may want to climb, right? And the people that are in the unicorn companies, they're not looking to come down to your level, but you may want to work your way up to theirs. And you may, and this is something I've seen now in 30 years, 35 years, is that so many of the people I worked with that I thought were just amazing workers when I was young now own amazing companies and now are doing amazing things. And maybe not even in welding. They may have branched out into something else, but they didn't stop being amazing. They just are, right? That's just the way they're built. And I want the CWB Association to be somewhere for amazing people to come to get supported, to help move up whatever ladder they're trying to climb. Because We've all had someone help us with doors. We've all had people open. My dad opened doors for me, honestly, because he was a very well respected shop foreman and manager here in Regina. And through him, it helped me with doors and knowledge, and that helped me be who I am today. A lot of people don't have those type of supports, and this association should be that support for them because there's so many great people in the association with knowledge and industry experience. We can help.
I would completely agree. The association has got, the people that are part of that, they're part of it, one, because they really feel passionate about the industry, but two, they've got a ton of knowledge. And, that knowledge they want to pass on in many cases. They wouldn't volunteer and take on all the additional effort that, running a volunteer organization has if you're not willing to share that. So, they really do want to assist individuals who are coming up in their career, who want to take that next step, who want to meet that next challenge. And I think the association's a key way of bringing those groups together to make it happen.
Yeah, and really there is no other way. And look at the other trades.
No.
There's no association for construction, for machining, for hydraulics, for mechanics. None of those industries have this system. Like, we have to nurture it and care for it and grow it because it's a very unique thing. And part of it is because our trade is very hard and difficult and straining and exhausting and all those things that we take pride in. You go on Instagram and it's about the grind and the hard work and that translates into us professionally, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it takes years of effort and commitment to become, skilled at your craft that you're working on. And I really do think that, again, the association's got an opportunity to assist in that, to help people continue to further themselves. And I think also to celebrate it as well. I mean, those chapters, they are offering, they have legacy awards for those people who've, committed to the organization for years and years to help their chapters grow. So I think it's an opportunity to both give back to, those people coming in, but it's also a way to give back to those people who've committed to assisting the trade throughout the years, whether it be through volunteer or other activities.
Well, yeah, it's not for nothing, and I come from a communist household. My family's communist from Chile, and there's a saying that volunteer work is the grease for the gears of society. That if you get paid to do a job, you do it because of the pay. When you volunteer, you do it for the love, and that's what makes the machines move smoothly. The machines will still move with or without volunteers, but the volunteer work is what makes things go smoothly, and it kind of takes all the squeaks and
Mhm.
rattles out of the machinery you know and it has helped me immensely personally, and that's a part of my passion. That's part of why I applied for the job and why I wanted to work for the association, because I am an immigrant from another country who had we came here with nothing from a war. And this community, this welding community, has helped me have a fantastic life, and for my kids and my wife, and all I had to do was work really hard and go to the meetings and meet people and make those connections, and I've gotten to do crazy things that who, who would have thought that, and that's opportunities I want other people to have.
Exactly. Now, you talked a wee bit about how your father was very influential on you in welding. How was it that he got into welding? What was the journey for him? Why did he pick the trade that has influenced your life?
Okay, so in Chile back in the 60s, and when my dad was coming up in in school system, they have a different school system there. It was communist model back then. So basically, you went to elementary school and you went to high school, and in grade 10 you had to pick whether you wanted to go to university or trade school, and it was all free, right? Everything's covered by government funding. So you could either finish high school with either 2 years of trade certification already, so to get out into a trade, or you can go to university and already have 2 years of university done by grade 12, which is, I think, a fantastic system. I would love to see something like that here, but it's too expensive. But so he was coming up through the school system and he was doing really, really well in school. And so he was planning on going down the university route. But at the time, Chile is very heavy mining. If you know anything geographically about Chile, and like a huge part of Chile's GDP is mining gold, silver, nickel, iron, copper. Is he's number one copper producer in the world. Um, So my dad was already working in mining. He went to university and he was trying to tie the two together, so he took metallurgy. So he was studying metallurgy and got really far into the metallurgy career. Then the war broke out, and it was over a number of years. So my dad had to leave school, and then he went to work at the mine, which is when he began to weld. So he started welding with this metallurgical background. So he started doing really well. Eventually, the war escalated. My dad was imprisoned for a couple years, and it was it was really hard time for our family. We were able to get out of the country to Argentina, and then we ended up getting to Canada. Now, a lot of things people don't understand about immigrants, especially exiled refugees, is that you don't get to pick where you go. You get sent. And think about that when you look at an immigrant on the street. They have maybe had never heard of where they are right now. And we ended up in Regina because Regina has a steel mill and there's lots of mining in Saskatchewan. So with my dad's mining and steel background, they said, you're going to Regina because we feel that you'll do well here. We landed here, I think it was June of 78 and or 77. And my dad, I think within a week was already hired and had started welding. And then it was just a matter of getting English under control, which my dad was luckily very good at languages and was able to pick up English pretty quickly. And from that moment forward, for him, it was just a steady climb. He joined the Boilermakers, worked with the Boilermakers for years, worked at a potash mine for a number of years, and then he had a work accident, which sometimes is life changing. But because had a work accident, he decided to go get schooling, got his foreman's, got his CWB supervisor certification. That got him into
There you
management.
go.
Yeah, got him into management through the CWB education that he got. And then from there, he became a plant manager, foreman, and then did that right up until the day he retired in his 60s. And that's kind of how I went in. So that was his path. And I was able to witness not just the jobs he had, but the camaraderie he had with his workmates. You know, they were going bowling, they were going fishing, guys were coming over. I'd go with him as an 8-year-old kid to the CWA associations. Well, they weren't, I think, what were they called back then? Welding Institute, something, something, way back in the day.
Yeah, WIC.
Yeah, WEC, yeah. And
Yeah, Welding Institute of Canada.
that's right. And we used to go to those meetings and there'd be bowling and I'd watch all the old guys have drinks and have fun. And I was like, man, this is an awesome job. Like, what world is this where people have so much fun? And there's guys driving Corvettes and Trans Ams. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
What do you think? What was probably the most influential thing your dad ever did for you to bring you into the welding? Like what? So that was a lot of fun seeing that. But was there anything that really stands out for you as that's why I got into this. I got into this trade. I got into this industry because of that one item, whether it be an influence from your father, family, or any other influence.
Well, it's tough because, and this is a story I've told lots of times. I didn't really want to be a welder. I went to university for philosophy. I wanted to be a teacher. I had this idea that I wanted to, help people with philosophy. It's kind of, I still have this idea in my mind someday somehow, or maybe I do it already. Who knows? But um, I kind of just was welding for my dad as a kid just to make money, because everyone else was working at Dairy Queen and I was working at the shop on weekends, and that's a way, it pays way better, and I felt like a better job, and I was enjoying it. I went to university, and then what happened is I got my girlfriend pregnant. I was in my second year university. She was 18, I was 20 or young, and I had to reevaluate real quick what I was going to do. And I had the safety net of welding, is what it is. And that's something that I think is very valuable for anyone in any trade. You may change careers 100 times in your life and it doesn't matter, but you get a trade under your belt and you will always have a safety net because trades don't go away. They never disappear. And I didn't have a passion for welding right off the top. I'm competitive by nature. My passion was maybe just trying to be good or be as good as I could be where I was working. But I really didn't develop my passion until I got actually plugged back into the CWA when I started making it fun for myself, not just going to work and producing widgets, but actually finding the joy in knowing people and seeing other people's careers which motivated me to get back to school and get my red seals and get my certifications and start climbing my ladder, which I climbed. I hate the analogy of climbing a ladder because I don't think that's actually how it works. I feel like life is climbing a rope, and every time you climb another meter of
Hmm.
rope, you put the rope behind you in your backpack, so that backpack gets heavier as you climb higher. So I feel like it's a rope that you carry as you go, but it's worthwhile, right?
I would agree for sure. And so you've been an educator for years. You've
Hmm.
spent a lot of time in the classroom helping mold kind of the next generation. What's been kind of one of the most satisfying parts of that? I mean, you're leaving something behind to move on to the next stage. What's the one thing you're going to miss the most about that?
I think the two most influential things that happened to me while I was at SAS Poly, maybe three, but one for sure, was being able to be a part of the Skills Canada competition process where we put a welder right from year one, started with him, Adam Sebastian, who ended up winning Saskatchewan and then Canada and then ended up in Russia. And I got to be a part of that whole process and went with him to Russia to compete at the world level for skills. That was an amazing experience to really, really up your game in terms of competition. There's a lot of, people, I'm the best welder, I'm the best welder. Lots of people like to talk about how good a welder, but to be an 18-year-old kid and have a team of mentors work with you and actually try to make you the best welder in the world, like for real, it was an incredible process and it was hard and I couldn't believe how good he was at taking that pressure and that all that work. It was years of work. It ended up being 2 years solid of him just training. That was an amazing thing for me just to see that it's doable and how far you can push this in the trade. The other part for me on the collegial level, academia wise, was the innovative manufacturing program and being a part of designing and writing a program from scratch and something that was very much based off my own personal life, where I had worked in manufacturing for years, and there was always a huge gap in industry of people that understood the academic side and yet also understood the floor side. So you could talk to engineers, you could use CAD, you could design, but you could also go down there and you were a CWB certified welder and you could weld and things could go out the door. So kind of what every small business owner knows. But at the large business level, it disappears. You have the bottom and you have the top. There's kind of not a middle ground. And this innovative manufacturing program was developed specifically to fill that gap. And it was a ton of fun. And it's robotics, it's engineering, it's fluid dynamics, it's welding and machining and fabricating and that was an awesome baby to nurture and then run a class through and then make changes and develop something like that. I guess the third thing was honestly just the students, just seeing those 12 new faces or 14 new faces every semester show up and look to you to be like, okay, I made the decision to do this and this is the career I think I want to do. Now you tell me how to do that. And I, challenge accepted. All right, I'll try to show you, not only how to be adept at what you need to do, but also how to be intelligent about it and how to be smart and how to, approach challenges and structure your work life because that's a big part of it too. You know, you go to college for a reason. You don't you go to college because you want to learn more than just a basic set of skills, which you could just learn by going to that shop and just working. You go to college because you want to get a rounded education, which is, how to organize yourself, how to be healthy, how to, all these things that are part of having a long and successful career.
Absolutely. I mean, the life skills part of it is something I've talked with my wife, a lot about with our child. Is that that's the one piece that when he does choose to go off somewhere, hopefully, that's really the one item I want to make sure that he's successful in is that life part. He can learn a program, he can learn a class, he can learn whatever else, but really learning how to succeed at life, that's the piece that I want him to be able to master, whether it be college, university, or doing a trade and going down the path and going through trade school and everything else. That's the most important piece.
So Mike, I'm gonna ask you a real tough question here. Can you weld?
Fire away.
Are you a good welder?
I
Tell
have
tell the
not
people if you can
welded.
weld.
I have not welded in probably 10 years. I would say that what I wind up doing is very bad, and there's probably a reason why I haven't welded in about 10 years. But yeah, no, I think I'd mentioned earlier on, we recently started a new program here that's being run out of our Milton facility that we've partnered with the Ontario government on, where we're bringing people in who have either been, laid off or looking to change careers. And one of the things we've been talking about with the instructor, Donna, in the class is that I'm going to, after hours, go in and get him to kind of reacclimatize myself with, the equipment and everything else, because I am, I'm a classic car guy. I've got a Mustang that needs some repair done to it. And, I'm also cheap. So I would prefer to be able to do that properly myself as opposed to create a disastrous mess. So I need to get my hands back on the tools again so I can actually do it properly and not make a huge mess of the car.
Well, we may have to start a program at CWB where everybody that works there needs to take a basic welding course.
I would completely wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, we have a few people within the management group that have gone and taken a welder fitter course or those types of things. But we were doing it, was it 2 or 3 years ago, the client services group got everyone together, and they didn't get out into the AWTC to weld with the equipment, but they got in front of one of the simulators,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and we're practicing with the simulators for one of their lunches. They brought everyone in and had them in the room, and they tried to build a bit of a training program around it for them, just so that they could kind of understand, how to properly hold it, how to move, everything else. Not quite the same as getting in front of the tool, but hey, it was a good start, and there was a lot of interest from the folks in the office to go in and try the same thing. So we'll have to see how it works.
Well, I think it would be an awesome idea because on the street, people look at CWB and say, "Wow, you're the welding bosses. Can you weld?" That's something for real, right? And like I mean, and I know it's something that
Yeah.
CSRs struggle with because CSRs are out on the floor and they're having to look at welds all day. And I've heard a lot of people,
Hmm.
especially even myself as a younger person, looking at CSRs being like, "How can you criticize my weld? Let's see you do better." Like. Can you throw down? But it's something that again, this is the communication that needs to happen, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it is one of the things that maybe not a lot of folks understand about our CSRs is that we spend a lot of time, when we pick a CSR to try to get CSRs that have been in industry for a long time, because we do feel the same way. If you're going to look at a weld, if you're going to basically critique someone else's work, should have a good handle on how to do it yourself as well. So that is something that is part of the recruitment process for a CSR, is that we do look at their welding background, their skills, and try to get somebody who does have that, they can speak with authority on the topic whenever they're in there talking to someone, but also have that ability to assist the individual once it's all done. So,
Hmm.
here are some of the things you could look at next time you go to do this. If the person didn't pass or, get qualified, they can go through with them and say, next time look at X, Y, or Z to try to help that person.
Yeah, yeah, or even just as a guide to, hey, go to our website. There's probably some videos, or you can maybe
Mhm.
contact your association, and someone can help you. There's going to be some qualified people that can maybe coach you a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, we have, within our YouTube site, we have a whole wealth of videos on there. We actually had one of our CSRs who he's retired now, but Albert had the Sean Connery type Scottish accent. And so we had Albert in there doing a video on how to go through basically getting prepared for your welder testing, if memory serves me correct. So we've got a whole wealth of videos on there that people can go and look at and try to get prepped.
Yeah, and I know the website's getting all worked on right now, and there's going to be tons of new content coming out. So everyone's got to stay plugged in. Keep checking us out. Don't forget about the website because there's lots of information that's going up there. I know you can get the podcast through there, but there's also tons of other stuff that you
Hmm.
can get, and membership's free. Like I mean, membership's free. There's really no reason not to get in there. And if people were members years ago and aren't now, and I would say please just sign up again because us for a variety of reasons. Castle for one of them. We need new, updated information from everybody. We'd like to know who's actually interested, and also the content is coming out all the time. Like, I mean, we're really pushing now to get new, solid content up online.
Absolutely. I mean, it's different than it had been before. We're really trying. I mean, membership was made free because we want access to more individuals. We don't want there to be a barrier to individuals joining, because really at the end of the day, it is about furthering that community that's out there. So we want to make sure we've got a lot of high quality content, and we want to make sure that we can get that information out in front of as many people as possible, because really, again, it's all about trying to assist the current and the next generation of welders coming into the industry.
Awesome. Well, Mike, we're coming up on an hour, so I think our time's up. Is there? You can ask me one more question, and then I'll ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. So, you got something to ask me, or you got something on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really have another question, Max. The one thing that I was wanting to put out there, maybe it would have made more sense for me to let you ask the question first and then I jump in at the end, is I'm just looking really forward to this. I'm looking forward to you joining the team. I'm looking forward to the next steps that we're going through, and I'm looking forward to the energy you're going to bring to the group. I think it's going to be, I'm really excited to see what the next steps are in the association and where we take this thing. So I'm looking forward to this. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Hopefully, I don't scare anybody.
I wouldn't worry too much about that.
And for you, my question is, the CWB going forward into 2021, where do you feel might be the biggest contribution for the 2021 year? What's the one thing you want to really improve on?
Yeah, I would say for the organization itself, when we all switched to this work from home model, it was quick. We had to just make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of items we need to go back now, relook at, make sure that our staff are being properly supported. As mental wellness is very important. So we need to make sure that we're spending that time having everyone go back and just check on each one of our teams and fix, if there are any broken holes in the process or anything like that. Let's get that fixed so that our staff really feel as though, hey, I may be working out of my house now. I may not see my colleagues every day of the week, but I am supported. I've got an organization here who cares about my success and cares about my well-being. I would say that is the number one item that I want to look to for fiscal 21 for our internal staff. Externally, it's really, I want to continue to do what we've been doing with the association, but ramp it up. So now we've got yourself coming on as the director of the association. I really want to put the muscle behind it now to push this thing forward and make sure that we're taking all of the little things we've been doing and just ramp it up. So, we've got the podcast. You did the videos with us very early on in the pandemic. I really want to make sure we're getting our message out about the importance of this trade across the industry. And hopefully while we're at it, we're reaching some other people that maybe wouldn't be listening to us normally.
Awesome. Well, this has been a super fun interview. I'm glad you had it, and I hope that people enjoy meeting, people in the CWB and learning more about the organization. And if you guys have questions, reach out, send emails in, and hook up with your local chapters, and if not, email us. We're around. You can always go to the website. All the information's there, and you can always find me too. I'm on Instagram. I'm everywhere. So, Mike, thanks a lot. I really appreciate this. I hope you had fun.
It was a blast, Max. I had a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again at some point.
All right, yeah, maybe we'll do a 6-month. Maybe we'll do my work. What's it called? My evaluation online.
There you go. We can do a mid-year review during podcast. That doesn't sound awkward at all, does it?
Well, I'm sure people love awkward. If anything, people love to listen to is awkward. So.
I think so. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for checking in. Make sure you download and share the podcast. Make sure you share it online. It's on Stitcher. It's on Google Play. It's on iTunes. It's everywhere. So make sure that you download it and you share it with your friends. We want to get as much support behind this. Supporting this helps support everything else that we're doing right now. And, stay tuned for the next episode. So thanks a lot. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to the CWB Association Welding Podcast with Mike Ceron. If you enjoyed what you heard today, rate our podcast and visit us at cwbassociation.org to learn more. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like to learn about in the future. Produced by the CWB Group and presented by Mike Ceron. This podcast serves to educate and connect the welding community. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.